Welcome everyone. I hope you have plenty of face palm protection for part 2 of the interview with a flat earther, Apollos. Okay, let's jump in.
So if you believe what you experience, if you believe your own experience, you would do what I do. You look out, you see the horizon line. You could climb up this mountain, you still see the horizon line, and the horizon line always meets your eye. If I'm in an airplane, I fly 10,000 feet up. Guess what? I look out, horizon line meets my eye. It means, like, it's wonderful when you're taking off from Hawaii. You're coming off the island. As soon as you get up in there, I mean, you're a couple hundred feet up, you look up and you can see the entire island. I mean, literally the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then the ocean way beyond that. And you keep getting higher and higher. The horizon line always meets your eye, which means that you're seeing further and further and further. So not only is the line flat, level, this way, the horizon line, not only is that what we experience, like sometimes people say, well, sometimes I'm in a plane and I can see a little curve, and no, you can't. Maybe you can, it looks like that, but it's just the curvature of the window. There's three windows between you and that. The outside one's flat, the inside one's flat, and then there's a curved one in there to keep the pressure, and gives you what's it called? Where you see more. Anyway.
I have already shown that the horizon does not rise to eye level. In fact, this video by pilot and fellow Flat Earth debunker Wolfie6020 illustrates that quite nicely. Oh, and if there is still any doubt, this picture taken by MC Toon on a flight using a theodolite showing the moon below eye level illustrates it even further.
It makes it look like there's a little bit of curve.
You're an educated man.
But the fact is...
You graduated high school, of course, right?
Oh, yeah.
And college?
Yeah.
You seem very intelligent.
But the curvature this way, so a lot of people are like, oh, maybe there's a little bit of curvature this way, okay? Same thing like if you look at the pictures, any of the space pictures, they're, oh, look, we're at the Hubble telescope, or we're at this, we're looking down, we're at the shuttle going around. Well, this is what you'll see. You'll always see the Earth, and like these big, huge, looks like this giant, like it is a ball, all right? They make it look like it's a ball. But what you see also is that the highest point of that curve, literally, whether it's tilted this way or that way, no matter how they tilt the camera, the main apex of that curve is always right at that eye level. So it's showing you, like, literally all science. I mean, all the space, all those shuttle guys in space, astronaut, are never looking down at a ball. And the guys that did the moon landing, they said they did the moon landing. If you look at that, they have a picture of the Earth from the moon. The problem with that picture is that the Earth is the same size as the moon from our perspective. So, like, from the moon, if they were looking back at the Earth would be very big. But they make the Earth the same size as what we see the moon, like in relative distance, or relative size.
With all the history and imagery that we have, you would think there would be some glaring, blatant example.
That's my point. Like, if you, that's where I'm at, bro. That's exactly where I'm at. I'm like, if you guys believe in a globe, please show me a few pieces of evidence. Just a few, just even one. Show me one that convinced me.
I'm not. I'm not here to prove you wrong, but I'm going to ask you a question or two.
Sure.
Just because somebody's going to get frustrated if I don't.
100%.
So if the Earth is flat, at some point, if you took a boat to the edge of this flat plane,
what happens?
Somebody would say, hey, look at this.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, or great point. So check this out. I believe that the Earth is flat, like I said. The center of our plane of existence is the North Pole, okay? Literally, that's why all of the compasses point north. Doesn't matter how far south you go, All compasses point north. In other words, we don't have a south pole. There's nothing magnetic down in the south. Antarctica, okay? Ever. Nothing. All compasses point north. That's because we have a lodestone. Our ancestors say there's a giant tree or a giant mountain, all these different words, different cultures say different things, but it's always a magnetic point up there. And the North Star is the one star in the sky that doesn't move. Well, it turns out it's directly above our North Pole. So it's as if, it's like a giant, what they call it, terrarium or whatever, and it's just spinning. So if you go to the North Pole and you do slow motion photography, all the stars are spinning in circles. Literally perfect circles around you.
So we're rotating around the Earth, the sun.
Exactly. I'm proposing to you that the sun and the moon are moving around us, just like it looks like. They are the same size, not 400 miles further, bigger, and 400 times further apart. It's very much the same. The sun, and as astrologically speaking, I think the moon has just as much of an impact as the sun on us. One is our conscious side, one's our unconscious side. One's gold, one's silver, one's hot, one's cold. Let me say this point on that also. If you put food out in the sun, it gets dehydrated. If I put food out in the full moonlight, it gets putrefied. It putrefies really fast. So it rots. It's exactly opposite.
I am sure that this clip of Greater Sapien will confirm Apollos' parroted claim.
The samples in configuration 1 were matching thermometers, matching Thinking is Critical t-shirts, and matching seat cushions. The thermometer in the moonlight, thermometer A, read 42 degrees. The shirt in the light was 47.6, give or take. The cushion was 47.2 and a bit lower. And the thermometer A surface was 46.6. Thermometer B under the canopy was 44 degrees. The shirt was 49.6, the cushion 48.8, and the thermometer surface 48.6 and a little less. Let me put all that up at once. Doing the math, the objects in the moonlight were 1.9 degrees cooler on the average. Does this mean that moonlight is cooling? Well, one way to tell is if I tried it again, but without the moon involved. So I waited a few days so the moon would appear later and later until I had a night with no moon in the sky. I tried it again. It's a similar setup, except this time there's no moon above. The one chair is under the canopy and the other chair is under the open sky. The open air thermometer reads just under 39 degrees. The shirt, 41.7. This wood is 41.9, but I won't put that into the average because it wasn't in the first batch. The thermometer surface is 40.5, and the cushion is 36.4. Under the canopy, the thermometer reads 40 degrees. The shirt is 43.2, the wood 42.3, the thermometer surface is at 41.7, and the cushion is 39.5, for an average difference of 1.7 degrees cooler in the open air. And that's with me calling the open air thermometer 39 degrees when I know it's a bit lower. In other words, the results are the same, moon or no moon.
There it is. Oops.
Well, I guess Greater Sapien actually debunked it.
All of our answers said the sun is masculine, the moon's feminine. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. And it makes sense. Like if you see the world like that, everything starts clicking. Like all these weird questions that we have from our perspective, from our society, are all basically they're all science questions. They're like, well, if we this and that, then and then you come up with all these weird questions. But if you just see the Earth as simple, that's how I see it. It's just very simple. Basically what it boils down to is the sun is not the center of our galaxy. We are. The sun, the moon, all the planets are revolving around us. And not just us as a whole, but I like to tell people, like, your mom and dad told you the world doesn't revolve around you. And I like to tell them, yeah, it does, actually. It totally revolves around you. Whatever you think and believe is the world that you're going to have. Your thoughts, your perspective, the things you expect happen. We live in a magical universe.
Imagination.
Another example of that, I'm kind of jumping around, but another example of that is, I like to share this with anybody because I think everybody's gone through this, experienced this. You can be in a crowd of people and suddenly you feel like somebody's looking at me, and you can just turn and find the person that's looking at you right away, without even you don't have to look around. They can have glasses on. You don't have to see their eyes. You can tell who's looking at you, and you can even feel what they're thinking a lot of times. People walk into a room, the whole energy changes, or somebody walks out of the room, energy changes dramatically. I've been around some
that doesn't mean the Earth is flat, though.
No, not at all. No. I'm not trying to. I don't have to convince anybody the Earth is flat. When you understand the Earth is flat, then it starts opening up all the other cans of worms. No, basically, you're like, oh,
there are different perceptions or sensory things that are probably going on with humans that we don't realize.
Exactly.
Some of us do, but
exactly.
Yes, when you're open to conspiracies, you will usually find what you want to find. It's like when you buy a white car. You will start paying attention to all the white cars on the road.
Let me ask you one more question
Sure.
to debunk your theory. So if the Earth is a flat plane, why is the sun rise in Europe 8 to 10 hours before it does in the U.S.?
So what's happening is the sun is going, see, this is the North Pole. The sun is traveling around like that, okay? In the summertime, in the northern hemisphere, it's summertime, when the sun gets closer to the North Pole. And so here's another good point. And then when it hits the Tropic of Cancer, the north, I think that's the north, that's the north one, the sun stops right there at the Tropic of Cancer. That's what the Tropic of Cancer is, by the way. Most people don't even know what the Tropic of Cancer is, the Tropic of Capricorn. They don't even know what it is. Those two lines are the divination, or the end, the fence, the end of the sun. The sun never goes any further than the Tropic of Capricorn. It never goes further north. Okay, so as it's getting to, that's our summertime. Right at the top, the height of summer, June 26th or something, that's when the sun hits the Tropic of Cancer, and then it goes back the other way. It starts heading back towards Tropic of Capricorn. And by the time it gets back there again, that's what we call a year. From one to the next is 6 months. It takes 180 days to go from one to the other one, okay? From Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. When it hits the line of Capricorn, it literally stops again and switches directions again. We call that 1 year. When it goes from one there and back again, when it hits again, that's 1 full year.
So many questions like, what holds up the sun and moon so they circle the flat Earth? What propels them? How does the sun just stop on each tropic line? Why does the sun not speed up when on the Tropic of Capricorn, since it's a much wider circle on the flat Earth? And so much more. The only reason Apollos calls this simple is because he either doesn't ask or doesn't care about what makes things work in his reality.
Check this out, though. This is wonderful. We don't have 12 months in a year. We have 13. There are 13 moons in a 364-day cycle. And if they're all at 28, just hypothetically, let's just say that they are. I think they are. There's actually 13 moons. 13 times 28 is 364. We would have a very simple basic calendar if we had 1 0 day, just like the Mayan calendar did. Mayan calendar, the reason it's so amazing is they were looking at 5,000 years. They didn't just take 1 year and make a calendar. They did a 5,000-year calendar. And every single day in that 5,000 years has its own flavor, their own characteristics. It's like wheels within wheels to determine what that day is going to be flavored like. In other words, this wheel, that wheel, and this wheel spinning will determine which planets they're affecting, how they're affecting, where they're at, when they're and that gives the energy, say, of that particular day. And they can predict that way ahead of time. I propose to you, anybody that can do that, that's masters of time like that, they could predict eclipses, they could do everything. I propose to you that's a very, very advanced society.
Why is the shadow of a lunar eclipse?
That's a good question. I would really like to know that. I think this is getting to be weird.
It might be because the Earth is round.
Right. Well, let's just say this, though. I think that there must be another object in the sky, like a black sun, I've heard it called, that is, because that's the only thing that could be occluding the sun, too. When we have a solar eclipse, what's coming in front of that? What's eclipsing the sun? Something we can't see. Like we don't see something over here and then it goes over here. We just see the effect of it as it's moving in front of the sun. I think that's the only explanation I have. Again, I don't have all the answers. I just have a lot of questions.
So far, his questions are parroted claims that he can't back up.
I've determined some things, and after that, I kind of like, whoa, I don't know. But the same thing with the moon eclipse. It's definitely like we're told that the moon is eclipsing when the sun's on the other side of the Earth, and it's the shadow of the Earth on the moon. And okay, Weird. It only happens when the moon is full, by the way. And if the moon is full and we're on a globe, the moon is only full when the sun's on the opposite side of the Earth, then how could it, in other words, that just doesn't even make sense to me. And that was one of the first things that made me start thinking about flat Earth was I was like, what? The moon's doing this and we never see the moon in the sky, the full moon in the sky with the sun at the same time. Only when, like literally, if I watch when it's going to be a full moon, I can watch the sun set over here and look in the other direction and watch the moon rise. Wow,
We all know that he's seen the sun and the virtually full moon during the day at the same time. Everyone who goes outside has seen this.
Wow. That right there just starts putting questions into this whole idea of a globe right off the bat, like,
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think we can keep it really simple, like as far as flat Earth. A lot of times people I will only know that when I go up 30,000 or 60,000 feet and look down and see that it's, well, okay. Why don't you just recognize that, one, it's actually a law. Water always finds its own level. And once it finds level, it stays level. I mean, it moves. A lot of times people go, what do you mean? The ocean's not flat? All right. Yeah, it is. It's sea level. Go to a big lake, for heaven's sake. Just go to a big giant lake. There's giant, like even Lake Tahoe. There's parts of the Lake Tahoe, like on a map, it's just like a little tiny thing, but when you're there, you can't see the other side you can't see the other shore. It's a big lake, and it's flat. We all know it's flat. None of us even think that this lake is curving at some point,
Yet, he said, you can't see the shore on the other side. But Lake Tahoe being in a mountain valley means that you can see the other side of it except for the shores which, if you are standing on one of those shores, are hidden by Earth curve.
Go to the Great Lakes, Michigan. You look across and it's, what? One of them was 80 something miles away, and on a really clear day, you can see the city over there. Same thing on Kauai. You can see Oahu. It's 90 something miles away. At its closest point, I think it's 94 miles away. On a clear day, you can see it, the whole thing, and not just the very tip, But it's supposed to be. Like if the Earth was curved, and again, they know the science tells us what the curve is, that's supposed to be like 2 miles below the horizon. That's not what we experience. Here's another part. Again, I'm keeping this real simple, just water being level, okay? If water is level, then, let's say, if we're on a curve, what is that curve? And here's some of the math, where this is when it's like, okay, that's definitely not happening. Science tells us that water is curving, the equation is 8 inches per mile squaring the distance as it increases. So 8 inches on 1 mile, they literally have the balls to say that the Earth is curving 8 inches in 1 mile.
Earth curves at 1 degree for every 69 miles. 8 inches per mile squared came from Samuel Rowbotham, one of the OG flat earthers from the 1800s, from his book Zetetic Astronomy. It does work for short distances, but not for long distances on the scale of the Earth. For that, this formula is used.
None of us have ever seen that ever happening. Ever. Like literally never. Like we can be right here where we're at, look across the bay right over there and see Malibu, and it's like at least 10 miles away as the crow flies. And according to science, that's supposed to be 66.6 feet below the horizon, or not below the horizon, but there's supposed to be 66.6 feet of curvature in 10 miles, right? Like that's not what we see. Now here's an interesting little factoid. The 666, that number, shows up all over the place scientifically, like in scientific literature. For example, here's one of them. They tell us that our Earth is tilted, okay? And they tell us 23.4 degrees. If you take a 90-degree angle and you put it at 23.4, right? If you take the rest of that angle, I could just as easily say that the Earth is tilted at 66.6 degrees. If it's tilted at 23.4, so you can also say 66.6. We're traveling around the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. A square mile is 666 feet or something like that, square feet. Anyway, there's like 20 of them. I could just, right off the top of my head though, it just kind of makes it kind of go, really? Okay, and the Earth is curved at 10 miles, 66.6 feet. Really? Okay, just happens to be, huh? Okay.
Why is your forehead all red?
Nobody react to what I'm about to tell you. I think that kid might be the Avatar.
You can't fix stupid.
I'm thinking that, like, people go, well, who would do it? How could they do it? Two things I would say. Like, I didn't even believe I was more of an atheist. I was agnostic before all this happened. Even though I was a Christian as a kid, I very much questioned it all, tossed it out the window because of not because I wasn't believing things so much. It wasn't so much I was doing research at first. I became an energy worker. I was doing healing work. And to do the healing work, I was doing things that the Bible, or at least my Christian brothers, were saying that's evil, wrong, that's demonic. So I got way away from Christianity because the things I was doing were working. Like if I touch somebody, it can actually change their knee, their back. So I'm like, I'm not praying. I'm not asking God, like from this perspective, hey, God, heal this person anymore. I'm like literally like, hey, what's his need? How to fix it. And so because that's my first escape out of religion, Christianity, was because of that. And that led me more into, and that's how I discovered Flat Earth, was just literally going, okay.
Do you laugh at all us round earthers? Totally.
I call you globetards. Yeah, 100%. And I'm not really making fun of you because it's really, I kind of feel sorry for people just because we've been taught so firmly that science knows what it is. Science is right. There's so many deceptions in science that I'm all about, because I'm a scientist. I like science. I love science. It's the scientific principle.
What'd you study 100%. In college?
Huh?
What'd you study in college?
Philosophy mainly. That was my main thing. I did English as well.
Flat Earthers think science should know everything about everything without a doubt. That's not how science works. And Christianity is about one's personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's it. It's not a religion, though there's thousands of religions based on it. Religions filled with people who have their own interpretations and beliefs because of the Bible, and who want to force those interpretations and beliefs on others, which is why people get driven away from religion and Christianity in general.
That was a major for a couple of years.
Where'd you go to school?
Fresno. I went to a community college first, played football in Reedley College, and then I went to a Bible school, did some, anyway, a lot of different trainings in little schools, not in any university. I just did a lot of, at that point in my life, I'm already 20 years old, and I'm like doing more like, intense training.
You started questioning authority or conventional things.
Exactly. I'm not going to go the conventional way. Yeah, exactly.
When did that start for you? Like teenager?
Yeah. I guess a lot of it happened because of my molestation, because of the fact that I'm supposed. These people are supposed to be, looking out for me. They're protecting me, and my parents know that they're there. What?
And they're doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, whoa. And it definitely reinforced that idea that everybody's lying. I didn't understand it because, let me go down that for a second. The idea that everybody was lying to me is when I was younger. Now that it never made sense, okay, ever. I didn't understand how my parents could be lying to me because I knew that it wasn't in purpose, it wasn't or intentional. It wasn't my grandpa. I love my grandpa. He would never lie to me on purpose. He was adamantly against lying. He loves the truth, and yet I would feel when I say he was lying or I felt deception. What I mean by that is, I feel like we all have this, but I like to describe it as like a bell. When I'm talking to somebody and this bell goes off, ding, I feel like I know when somebody's lying to me, and I think we all do, and if you don't, it's because you're covering up and pretending not to. But if you're sensitive and open up a little bit spiritually, you can always tell when somebody's lying to you. And you can also tell when somebody's telling you a radical truth. Like you can feel both sides of that equation. Like they're uncomfortable saying this, but they're going to say it anyway. And it's like, I respect people like that. And so the lies were happening, I think, were unintentional things. Like my grandpa lying to me, it wasn't like he was actually lying to me. It was just that he believed things that were false. And he was pushing me to believe the same kinds of things. But to me, I'm like, well, why would we continue on if we all sense that that's wrong? It's just because everybody else is doing it? If that's really and that's what I'd ask my mom especially. Why are they doing this, Mom? Like, what the freak? She's like, well, everybody's doing it, so let's just, In other words, if you don't do it, you're going to be ostracized. You're going to be outside the circle. So just come back into the circle.
It seems as though he traded one form of indoctrination for another, all because he was lied to when he was younger. He has no clue he's being lied to by those in the Flat Earth community. the same community that ostracizes those who leave it as well.
And I realized when I started becoming more spiritual, that led me into flat earth. Once I saw the earth was flat, then I started believing in God again. There has to be something going on here because it's too perfect. You know, it's too orderly. And the fact that we're being lied about it, why, how, you know, like respectable people. Now I think it's more spiritual. Like, in other words, I don't feel like there could be a small cabal of men, actual humans, that would want to hurt all these other humans, you know, to deceive everybody and control and keep them enslaved. I just don't see that. Like, humans could be that evil, could actually be that twisted. But now I'm thinking, like, yeah, there is. There are some humans that are involved in this, for sure. I don't think it was a human idea, though. That's part of the reason I'm more spiritual, thinking that there has to be, put it this way, I didn't even start believing in God until I believed in demons. And I felt like, wow, there's some literal misrepresentation, intentional deception going on, and it's coming from the highest levels, you know?
Corruption breeds corruption in all levels of humanity. Flat, globe, banana, concave, hollow earth notwithstanding. Humans suck. However, that doesn't mean everything that the powers that be do or say is a lie or used to control us. They lie to us about everything. Is just a convenient excuse flat earthers and other conspiracy people use to justify them just plain not understanding.
Yeah, like, how could that happen? In other words, for example, this is what I mean. This is kind of how I got to that. Is how can all of the pilots and all of the astronauts be in on this? You know, how could everybody, all the scientists, be in on the joke? You know, and deceiving everybody on purpose? It's not like that. Not like that at all. It's just everyone is deceived. For example, I have a good friend of mine who's a pilot. And until I pointed this out to him, he just never even thought about it.
No astronaut who went up in space and saw that the Earth is a flat plane decided to speak up?
Exactly. Exactly. And if they do, boom, they're immediately shut off. They're ridiculed, or they're killed, or their family members, or something bad happens. If you question reality in any way, or question the reality that they're pushing, it's not reality. If you question the reality that they're encouraging you to believe, then they shut you down really, really fast.
So that's why Flat Earth, the moon landing hoax, and all other conspiracies can be found in videos on YouTube and all over social media? Seems as though they are doing a pretty poor job of stopping it from getting out.
And so nowadays, that's one of my keys, is what can we talk about and what can we not talk about? Because if there's things that people can say and get shut down and destroy, their careers are destroyed, their families are wiped out, or they're murdered, or all these mysterious things happen, what are they talking about? And if they're talking about something that they get killed for, it's like, for me, I want to listen to what they're saying, because probably it's going to be some truth there. Yeah, so that's led me into getting further and further down these rabbit holes, obviously.
Right.
You know.
To my knowledge, no one has ever been killed for talking about the flat earth or the moon landing hoax or any other conspiracy made up out of willful ignorance.
Apollos, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
One last question.
Sure.
What would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life? How old are you?
I'm 53.
53.
Most important lesson? I would just say that there is energy, and we can impact the energy around us. We have the potency. Yeah, I like to show that. Anytime anybody sits down with me, I can demonstrate, feel this energy. You know, not even touching you. I'll just move my hands around you. You will feel it. And yeah, I feel like if that's the one thing, if I could just teach that, people have asked me that, what would you do if you had a billboard? No, it's just any way I could encourage people to see that, because if you can see that the energy is all around you and you can impact that energy, then it empowers you, you know? And that's why I would say that's what I want people to believe. That's also the reason I'm talking about flat earth. I'm not really saying all of the things I say I'm not just saying it to make you question your reality. I'm saying it because I believe that when you start questioning your reality and you find things that are actually true, that you can actually step on and believe and feel secure in, then it changes your entire perspective. It changes your being, changes how you react and respond to people. Since I found out the earth was flat, I'm way more confident. I trust my gut way more. You know, a lot of times our heads can be deceived. You've heard the quote, the statement that we only use 10% of our brain. Scientists now, I just heard this a couple days ago, scientists now are saying we only use about 1% of our brain. All right? Well, where's the rest of it? That's the part that I want to get a hold of, is the other 90, 99% of our brain is in subconscious, unconscious. And in other words, our gut. When our gut is telling us something, I believe listen to it. But we've been taught to question that, push all that down, all your feelings, all your notions, any gut feeling. No, that's not. I can't be actual. Unless you can put it into words. But by the time we formulated our thoughts, and then it comes out as words, that's way up here. Like that's just such a surface thing that there's no way that's actually pointing to the truth. Even if I'm coming straight from truth and I try to hand it to you, by the time I put it into words, it's not the actual truth anymore. But that's why I like to demonstrate to people rather than just say words. Lay on the table, let me move my hands around you, you're going to get up and you're going to know things that you never knew before. You're going to feel completely different.
We do not use just 1% or even 10% of our brains. We actually use 100%, as illustrated in the following explanations. From Myth, we only use 10% of our brains, from psychologicalscience.org. The origin of the 10% myth is unclear, but some people attribute it to a misunderstanding of a statement in an article by William James, 1907. The quote is below. Most of us feel as if we live habitually with a sort of cloud weighing on us, below our highest notch of clearness of discernment, sureness in reasoning, or firmness in understanding. Compared with what we ought to be, we are only half awake. Our fires are damped, our drafts are checked. We are making use of only a small part of our possible mental and physical resources. Note that James is saying we often don't feel energized, both physically and mentally. He in no way claims that we only use a small portion of our brain. In fact, he was observing how decorum, social norms, and routine fail to engage all of people's resources. His statement is actually consistent with what we now know about attention and flow states, but James clearly was not claiming that most people perpetually use only 10% of their brain power. According to neurologist Barry Gordon at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in Baltimore, in an article in Scientific American, it turns out, though, that we use virtually every part of the brain and that most of the brain is active most of the time. Let's put it this way. The brain represents 3% of the body's weight and uses 20% of the body's energy. The average human brain weighs about 3 pounds and comprises the hefty cerebrum, which is the largest portion and performs all higher cognitive functions. The cerebellum, responsible for motor functions such as the coordination of movement and balance, and the brainstem, dedicated to involuntary functions like breathing. The majority of the energy consumed by the brain powers the rapid firing of millions of neurons communicating with each other. Scientists think it is such neuronal firing and connecting that gives rise to all of the brain's higher functions. The rest of its energy is used for controlling other activities, both unconscious activities such as heart rate and conscious ones such as driving a car. Although it's true that at any given moment all of the brain's regions are not concurrently firing, brain researchers using imaging technology have shown that, like the body's muscles, most are continually active over a 24-hour period. Evidence would show over a day you use 100% of the brain, says John Henley, a neurologist at the Mayo Clinic of Rochester, Minnesota. Even in sleep, areas such as the frontal cortex, which controls things like higher-level thinking and self-awareness, or the somatosensory areas, which help people sense their surroundings, are active, Henley explains. Sorry that this was so long, but this should help to educate those who thought that we only use 10% of our brains versus what we now know.
It's not because I'm changing it. It's just because I took some scales off of your eyes and removed some of the obstacles to your health. And then that's what I'd like to say also. We're all gods. We are gods. The universe is revolving around you. And when you recognize that, then you can not only feel better in yourself and be more confident, but you're going to be having more potency, more power to help your brothers and sisters. And yeah, that's the other thing. Sometimes people go, well, if you give people power, they're going to abuse it. I don't think so. The more power, for example, I do martial arts also, and when I'm fighting people, the less I'm thinking, the less I'm in my head, the better a fighter I'm going to be. So all the training, all the practice is in my head to my body to my head, and putting it together. But when I'm actually fighting, I want to be to the place of push, because my brain is way too slow. If I'm sitting there thinking about what my next move is going to be, too late, that guy's already beat me. But if I'm just flowing, then not only am I going to be doing things fast, I'm going to be doing, I'm probably going to survive, but it's going to be a lot more beautiful. It's going to be flowy. It's going to be more fun. Same thing applies when I'm doing anything. It's basically like people talk about being in the zone, like shooting baskets, for example. Same thing. You get into that zone, everything's perfect. Boom. Every single shot, perfect. That's what I want to try to encourage people to be. So I'm all about performance enhancement. But in order to perform better, you have to get rid of the deceptions in front of you. If you're believing a bunch of garbage, it's like literally you're walking around with garbage on you. It's really hard to move. And so if we remove that garbage, then not only is your legs going to stop hurting, you're going to be able to walk straighter, you're going to have more confidence, and you're going to be loving people. You're not going to use this new power to hurt anybody or to deceive anybody. You literally, the more I empower people, the more they just become better people. All
right.
Yeah.
Apollos, thank you so much for giving your views on our planet.
Absolutely.
And everything else.
Aloha.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it, folks. Get rid of all the garbage of the globe Earth and whatever else they tell you and start going down the rabbit hole of conspiracies. Peace, love, and harmony will change the world for the better. Don't get me wrong, I do believe that our minds and bodies are connected, but not to the point where it comes down to the belief in conspiracies over real life. After all, humanity's inhumanity to man and corruption and deceit from the powers that be will still exist no matter what knowledge or beliefs we hold. Remember to do all the YouTube-y stuff, like, share, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell and click all to get notified when I upload new content. Thank you for watching. You are all awesome. See you in the next video.